Hey, party people, listen, I want to bring this to your attention. God is not after a religion. He's after a relationship with you. Like, I really want you to know that. God desires a relationship with you. You know, religion has a way of taking us from really having a relationship with God. And first off, I want to say that not all religions point to the same God, that there are big differences between each religion and the God that they serve. So we have to come from a place of truth, leaving our feelings at the door to really understand, right? Through reality, through logistics, and through scientific evidence. That is evidence all around us to prove who is the true God, right? If there is a God and if there is one, can we know him? And it's there, right? And so I want you to know that it's possible to have a relationship with God. In fact, God desires a relationship with you, but oftentimes we're just so wrapped up in religion. We're so wrapped up in religiosity, right? And by religiosity, I just mean like everything that you do, right? When you ask people, right, are they Christian? What are some of the things that you think of that they might respond to you? They'll probably say something like, yeah, I go to church. Yeah, I pay my tithes. I pay my offering. Yeah, I read the Bible. I do all of it. It's a lot about what everybody's doing. It's a lot about what they're doing or what they do. And a relationship with God is not predicated on what there is to do. It's about believing and receiving in what's already been done, which is his free gift. That is Jesus Christ. And this free gift that not only is available to me, but it is available to you. This free gift is available to you, and having a relationship with him is not predicated on what there is to do. Right. We put our faith in how much church attendance we have. Right. How often we go to church, the pew or seat that we always sit in. Right. We're always trying to figure out who's preaching where, because we're more focused on who's preaching and how they articulate words and the deep theological vocabulary that they have that we feel will enrich us in some way. And we love to go to church to get high. And what I mean by high is we love to get a spiritual high, but we don't focus on understanding that it is a relationship. We love to come to the pews and come to a 4-wall building and do a praise and worship session and hear an amazing word and be all fired up just to leave it in the church and not purpose to live. If what was taught was truth and biblical, not purpose to live it and apply it to our lives. And that's where we mess up. Because we think that if we pay our tithes and offering, we're going to heaven. And we think that if we are just loving to everyone, we'll go to heaven. And those are all things that are predicated on what there is to do. And I'm not saying that none of those things are effects of following Christ, because they are. But I want you to understand that it has nothing to do with what you and I do, but it has everything to do with just placing our faith, which isn't a work. Faith isn't a work. It's what establishes grace. We are able to place our faith in the finished works in Jesus Christ. Okay, man, Jesus ran into these things too in his ministry with religious leaders, Pharisees, Sadducees, Herodians, scribes, all of these people who were just so caught up in religious commands and religious things and rules of men. Right. Just men giving commands and adding 100 on 10 and always trying to tell other people what to do. But they weren't willing to do what they were telling other people to do. And they were so, they appeared to know God. Right. They had their suits on, or at this time they had their robes, their long robes. They just had a deep background of philosophical dictionaries and thesauruses on theological words. And they just sounded so eloquent and so delicate and just sounded so well spoken and all of these things, right? Using big words, and they were washing their pots and pans in holy water, and they were just looking and appearing so holy. But on the inside, all of that they were doing meant nothing, because on the inside they were corrupt. And what I'm telling you is that it starts inwardly. When we are purposing to read scripture, we are purposing to become what Jesus Christ is calling us to be. Because if we are just purposing to read the Bible to just go and do, we are not becoming what we're trying to do. We need to become more like Christ, because it starts on the inward. You can wash your hands all day long, but if you don't wash your heart, there will always be an issue that won't be resolved until you get the inside on track first. It's a relationship. That's how the religious leaders missed it. They studied the first 5 books. They knew it front hand and backhand. They had it on their wrists. They had it on their foreheads. They had large print Bibles highlighted everywhere. I mean, they knew it all front hand and backhand, but they still missed Jesus. Let me give you an example of how they missed Jesus. John chapter 8. They missed Jesus easily. John chapter 8, verse 31 through 59. Jesus encounters the religious leaders who are questioning who he was. They claimed to have the heart of Abraham, but Jesus said, if you had the heart of Abraham and you knew who Abraham was, you would also know that I am the Son of God. But since you don't know, that tells me that you're lying. That tells me that you're just looking the part, but you're not really being the part. And that's what got them caught up. And Jesus, this is how cold-blooded Jesus is. This is a drop the mic moment. Let me show you how cold-blooded he is. When they were questioning his statement towards Abraham, and they said, well, how do you even know all of this about Abraham? Aren't you younger than him? Like, didn't you come way after Abraham? Like, how in the world do you know these things? And he said, before Abraham was, I am. Oh, that set them off. Oh, my God. They were so messed up. They didn't know what to do. So they started picking up stones, trying to stone him because they were calling him a blasphemer. Why were they doing so? Because they were so caught up in their religiosity and their religion that they were no longer concerned about having a relationship with Jesus, that they missed. Even though they had all this knowledge, they missed Jesus. And that's something that you and I can do, too, if we're not careful. All of these religious organizations, everybody trying to tell you that you have to be Catholic and you have to be Baptist and you have to be Lutheran, you have to be a Calvinist, and you have to do this and you have to be that. Hey, listen. Jesus is after a relationship with you. There's no such thing as a Baptist Jesus, a Calvinist Jesus, a Catholic Jesus, a Lutheran Jesus. Jesus is Jesus. And we need to remain in scripture, to be poured in by him through his word, to receive the biblical agenda, to push out this kingdom biblical agenda to a broken world. And not be so caught up in who's preaching and who's the doc and who's the reverend and who's the bishop. Right. And not going to church because my bishop ain't preaching and not going here and not going, like that. That's all religion. That's all nonsense. We need to strive for a relationship with Jesus, because in the end, that's what was broken in the garden. And that is what we can now be redeemed and have again through what Jesus Christ did for us on the cross. Pursue a relationship with Jesus, not religion. Yes. There is a right faith. There is a right religion. Not all religions point to the same God. Not all religions point to the same deity. Not all religions are true. Someone is false. This is why we have to come to know who God is and pursue truth to discover these things. And there's evidence. We just need to put ourselves in the mindset to chase this evidence, to find this evidence, and to come to the conclusion. And there's only one truth, and his name is Jesus the Christ. Thank you so much for tuning in. I can't wait to have our next conversation here soon. But until then, as always, peace.